Hi everyone, and welcome to my Master Unconscious Moments in One Day workshop. And today is going to be all about unconscious moments. Some of you are not from ACH community just yet, Advanced Conversational Hypnosis community. So, what is the unconscious moment? So, unconscious moment is what we observe our clients. When we observe our clients and they are giving us all sorts of different types of micro expressions, micro body movements, and mainly because I mainly work online. So for me, is mainly the face, the voice, and yeah, so basically the face and the voice, and basically what they're expressing through the face, and when we ask the question, how they are responding and what their micro expressions are. So I'm gonna share the list of the unconscious moments with you, and then I will talk through the list and explain everything in a bit more detail. In just a sec. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So as I said, when we've got a client on the screen and you start asking questions within the therapy setting, and they respond with the answer. There can be some, for example, rapid eye blinking, increase or decrease in the blink reflex. So when we are so even when I'm talking, right, and then you can actually see from me uh, when I'm like reading, I'm just like reading properly, like from the list, right? And when I'm like, oh, okay, I start thinking, okay, how do I express this a bit better? And if I start blinking, so I go a bit more inwards into the thinking mode, or sometimes I go like, unconscious. So especially with the clients, because you're talking about their problems. And anytime you talk about the problem that you have, you instantly go into some sort of a trance mode, and you instantly express with your answers. You instantly go in and out of unconscious, right? So, so one of the things that we look for is like the rapid eye blinking, for example, as I said. Then it can be eye fixation, so like increased attention where they literally just stare at you, or you can see the person doesn't actually stare at you, but they stare through you. It's like they are looking, but they are not actually seeing with their eyes, but they are actually thinking about something inside of them. Or there's lack of attention or attention on an object in the vicinity. It could be like either your office or looking away at something if on Zoom. So for example, how I express myself, I look away a lot. When I start thinking, I look away a lot. So, or I blink a lot as well. So it could be, it's not just one type of unconscious moment that the client expresses. Then it could be shifts in posture or position. So they would go, so sometimes I have clients in a session and they would go like tense and then relax. And then even while they are processing and they are not actually just talking, you see them think. So a few of them could happen at the same time. You see them like look away and start thinking, and then they are just like, and then relax. So the way you can actually go about it, you can point out to them like, oh, what was that? What was these tense shoulders? What thoughts coming to you when you tense up and when you relax? What was it? Then you get the facial expression. So relaxed or tense facial features, flushing of skin or lips, skin coloration, when they go like a bit red, and I've had so many times. And I think when you look, when you think about your sessions in the past, where you're talking about something, and your client is expressing something to you and then telling you a story about their life or regressing into some sort of a memory, they go a bit red, and that's also an unconscious moment. Then there could be like automatic movements like twitching, catalepsy, automatic movement, levitation of like limbs or stillness. So some some of it, so like the levitation of stuff we know from all of the deepness and stuff like that, right? But that could actually happen naturally. I've not had the levitation of limbs and if with anyone just yet, but it could happen naturally. When you look at, for example, some of the sessions of Erickson, Milton Erickson, there's sometimes that happens. Twitching, that's quite common, the twitching, or like, just like scratching something suddenly, or suddenly they've got an itch about something while they're talking about, I don't know, their grandparents or something. So that is something that you can kind of pay attention to as well, right? So does that all make sense so far? Okay. So then there are auditory unconscious moments. So these are the expressions, challenge or addiction through metaphors, stories, symbols, or feelings. So it's when you hear in their voice, for example, and you can hear an emotion through their voice. And it's even if they look, sometimes with as well, if if you are having a session and you can't actually see a lot on the Zoom, like sometimes it looks like they are fine in the face, but the voice is almost, they're starting to cry, but they're not yet crying, but the voice is full of emotion. So that's something to pay attention to as well. Or if they start telling you about something like, oh, I suddenly, it just feels like I have this wall in front of me, and every time I try to like move it, it's like so solid I can't move it. And there's a metaphor, but there is a difference from the conscious and unconscious metaphor. When the client is conscious, they would almost try to like describe things as if they have repeated this a lot of times in the past. They're like, oh, yeah, yeah, so this is like this and that and that and that. And I was telling to my friend how I feel like this, and they'd be, it's almost like a repetition of consciously repeated thought. But if they go like, oh, it just suddenly feels like this wall or like this fog or whatever, and we will see later on in the demo. So I've got one of the pre-recorded demos where they feel, where that comes up actually. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. Okay, so then emotions, so emotional outbursts, uncontrollable emotions, negative and positive. So that is your crying or laughter as well. So I've had so many sessions, we had so much laughter in there, because sometimes when you point out to their like clashing reality thinking, where they know they're making an excuse for something, and they actually know it, and you point it out and they start laughing, and then when they start laughing you can actually point it out to them like, what's so funny, this is a serious issue we're talking about, what's so funny about that, and then they will go explaining what is actually happening in their mind when they're laughing, and they might realize that actually, yeah, I've been making some excuses for myself, and actually I don't need to have this specific problem. I've just been making excuses all this time. Then language. So confusion when you ask a question and they're answering and they get all confused and then they go in, they can go a little bit in circles and then go about one, about another. It's not when they go completely off the tangent, but they just get a bit confused. So that confusion and lack of logic is when the conscious mind starts kind of shutting off, when they're like, oh, but that makes no sense. And we're talking, for example, about smoking, stopping smoking, and they suddenly start telling you things about, how they've been bullied at school or something that doesn't seem like they are related, but they are related because you have already had, a part of a session where you've delved deep, and this is what's coming up. Another thing with language is when you hear throughout the session that they are repeating the same word. For example, they keep saying, "Oh, I'm afraid of this," and then keep talking about something else, and then a couple of minutes later, they're like, "Oh yeah, that fear is coming up again," and then that fear is coming up a bit again. Then you can actually bring it back to that fear later on if you want to. Like if you haven't picked up in the beginning, like of a session, if they are talking about fear and they are having like some sort of a twitch and they're like, oh, I'm afraid, and their body moves, then there is an unconscious moment. But if you missed it and we've repeated it a few times, you just get back to it. Then then there'd be rational or non-conclusive assumptions. So again, these are your illogical thinking where for example there's people. So I had a session, so but someone was afraid of being afraid. So you're already afraid, you're being afraid, so that's already in the unconscious moment because it's not rational, it's not conscious. So basically the most important thing is that we do monitor these moments and utilize the tools that I teach in my training to gain these benefits of unconscious moments. So I'm going to tell you what we do with them when we notice them in a minute as well. So the main power of spotting these unconscious moments is that if we break any of these categories down of these unconscious moments that we've just gone through, is to know that when we see or hear any or all of these moments, and as I said before, sometimes it could be many in the same moment, that the unconscious mind is telling us something. Unconscious mind is assisting us, and the unconscious mind is revealing some clue to the breakthrough our clients are searching for. So it's almost this is not your traditional hypnosis where you like kind of put them under and it's like we think that everything's unconscious. It's not actually that. It's sometimes things are it people go into unconscious, back to conscious, into unconscious, back to conscious. So it's not that we, oh, okay, now we've accessed unconscious moment, unconscious mind, and we've got the full access to it. It's not like that. It's actually spotting these unconscious moments and knowing when we access that unconscious mind. I've got something in the chat.